Hello everyone, I am Nidoking, and this, once again, is Sinner, Sacrifice for Redemption. So you're probably wondering at this point, why am I even doing this again? I've beaten all of the bosses in the game, I've attempted the Nightmare Challenge, and I'm clearly not going back to do that one again. So what more could the game possibly offer? And that was my question too. There was a lot of stuff in the press releases and the reviews for the game that I just did not see. Things like multiple weapons. Okay, there is one unlockable weapon that you get for completing the game. Other than that, I don't really see a lot of case for saying that there are multiple weapons. Multiple endings. What in the world is that? Is this something to do with beating the bosses in a certain order? There was a lot of talk about the story and the challenges, and none of it really bore any resemblance to the game I saw. But, of course, because of the game's unique presentation of not featuring cutscenes for your second and beyond playthroughs of the game, although there is the unskippable tutorial area at the start, this cutscene, which adds nothing and doesn't have anything to do with any story, is unskippable. The cutscenes that actually do spell out the story, you'll only ever see once. But I went and watched somebody's recording of, I guess, their first playthrough because they included all the cutscenes in it. And they showed something interesting in those fights. Whenever you beat a boss, that redemption prompt comes up and tells you to press the left trigger to redeem the boss and claim your extra health. It turns out that's optional. One way not to redeem a boss is to die after you've killed the boss. You still get credit for the kill, but you don't get the extra health. But another way is simply to attack the boss after it's already dead until it just vanishes. And so that's what I'm going to be doing here. Having beaten the game a couple of times, getting all of the health upgrades, I am now going to attempt to do it again without the health upgrades. Let's see whether I'm even up to the challenge. On the bright side, I've learned a lot from a couple of playthroughs of the game, and of course from watching video of all of my horrific failures. So things like don't charge right into the boss would be great things to have learned, but I didn't. On the other hand, we know that my successful runs always start with some really, really clumsy accident that I eventually manage to recover from. And I have learned about that running attack, which is really good here. When I can pull it off. I'm still wrestling with the controls most of the time, but I do know 2 hits and back away. And I don't think I even want to approach him at this point. He's in the middle of the lake. So I don't think I really need any of my ranged items. I might throw something at him. But no, here he comes into attack range. And then he summons the eyeballs. I still maintain it's very strange that the game seems to encourage you to fight this particular boss first, when that seems like kind of the worst idea. I mean, it's still the way that I do it. And the sacrifice, I maintain, is less damaging than most of the ones that you have to face in later bosses. Although, a lot of the experts online disagree with me and take care of this guy way later. But the fight itself is just bad in so many ways. And at least I can hide from the smaller projectiles here and send the big one back at him. I've discovered that actually does a fair amount of damage, There you go. Probably about as much as hitting him once with the greatsword. And as long as he's staying over here, I think this might be the time to start hurling items at him. Well-timed parry, not so good on the follow-up. Although I am gratified to see that the firebomb does at least leave a pool of fire in the middle of the lake there. I realized just barely in time that he was doing his poison attack. And that was me attempting to deal with the slugs in a slightly more sensible fashion, and getting poisoned for my troubles. This is why I like fighting this guy early on, because your mistakes can do so much harm to you. But having as much healing as I've got at least gives me a chance to recover. If I fought Phystalis any later, I'd pretty much have to be perfect instead of okay. I'm really trying to target him here so that I can at least hit him with a spear, knock him off the platform, because he's just staying up there. That's not much fun for anybody. And one more hit, I think, should send him into his second desperation move. Bit early on the parry attempt there. Now it's time for him to summon his little helpers here, and again, I've seen what it is that they do. If they fill up that purple meter, you just die outright. They call it Curse. It's only slightly worse than the Dark Souls Curse status. So yeah, trying to do these fights without any health upgrades when my health is going to be consistently getting that low, probably not going to work out so well. But we'll see. Again, as the fight winds down, I start getting really careless, recognizing that I just need to hit him a couple more times. How hard can it really be? As always, going for the cheap finish with a whole bunch of throwing spears. And just getting there. Take that, Doctor. Go heal thyself. And so we get the same cutscene with whatever this is flowing into the pool. At least we know the significance of the pool by now, if we don't know what all this stuff actually is. And that's it. Other than not having gotten a health upgrade, it doesn't seem that anything has really changed here. I don't even know that this necessarily leads to another ending. I'm just hoping. But on the bright side, I didn't die at all during that fight, and I'm going to take my own advice and take on Levin Undok before I take on Yordo this time. Again, counting on the fact that I'm not going to need very many items to defeat Yordo, whereas getting exhausted while fighting Levin Undok was a really big problem last time. That is kind of one neat thing, is that a lot of these bosses do in certain ways seem to be balanced for the fact that you have to make a specific sacrifice in order to fight them in the main game. So it's kind of interesting to fight them in challenge mode when you don't have to make the sacrifice, and doing things like fighting Rhodes with your full attack damage available, or fighting Levin Undok and having the option to use your fire buff, which you can't do during this fight. So let's see if I've improved at all from my previous performance. This is usually the boss that's going to give me the most trouble, I think. Probably in just every playthrough. The first stage is usually not all that difficult because I've just got to contend with one, and learning all of its patterns is simple enough. Granted, now that I don't get exhausted when I run completely out of stamina, I'm probably going to run out of stamina fairly frequently, just because I can. And while it doesn't leave me exhausted for a long period, it does kind of leave me unable to roll or block if I need to in a hurry. But I also have the charging attack that I didn't know about last time I fought this boss, so I can do a whole lot of damage in a hurry when I really need to. And I've got a better grasp of her patterns in each form. Other than not really appreciating the width of the lightning strikes there. And that was just a badly timed roll. But I think I got this. It would be ideal to just get through this entire playthrough without any deaths. Naturally, that's not going to happen. And that was a really bad arc for the flying axe. Well, I'm not in terrible shape anyway. Used a couple of early heals, but I'm doing steady damage. Trying to conserve some heals for later. Let my natural healing kick in for a little bit while I've still got it. You should definitely not have relied entirely on natural heals for that point. But we're down to just one form here. The point at which I give my chances a huge increase. And you can see that the chandeliers, when they fall during the Indok fight, don't have electricity on them. And yeah, I'm out of heals. I'm down to just the natural regen. And I get Errol Flynn to death. So admittedly, my skills have not improved as much as I would like, but I think I am doing a lot better overall. Taking those early hits there that tells you, yeah, this is probably my victory run. It's not. That one I just left in there because it was hilarious. Yeah, I am trying to get better about the parry timing. Even though blocking isn't a bad idea here, it works, but if you parry, you do get a couple of free hits, and I actually managed to do enough damage there to stun her momentarily. It's not a whole lot of stun, but it works. And if you can really get the parry timing down, then you can fight her entirely with the greatsword, which probably works a bit better. And really, I think the best thing to do is to try to parry that axe. I'm sure it can be done, and you'll actually throw it back at her. You can parry the daggers too, just like that. And I think that does actually do damage to her as well. You can't parry most of what Undok does, though. You certainly can't parry lightning. But I'm a lot more willing to use that dashing attack when I know it's not going to leave me exhausted for several seconds afterward. I do pay for it sometimes. Actually, I suppose sometime I ought to try attacking those axes that are still buried in the floor. It probably isn't going to do anything, but given this game, you never know. It worked against Angron anyway. I still haven't actually learned how to tell from her movements which type of weapons she's going to summon at any time. I don't know whether you can parry those axes. You know, I'm sure the one that flies horizontally you can parry, but the vertical ones, maybe, maybe not. Probably worth trying at some point. But it's all a learning experience. I can't tell you that I'm actually learning a whole lot, but it's all going to be valuable experience in the end. See, there I thought she was going to do the full body electrocution, but now she's just doing the lightning strikes. That's full body electrocution. So you might be wondering, why am I even bothering to show my complete playthroughs here when not a whole lot of interest is happening? Because I think I have learned a lot, improved some, and maybe there are some people out there who are interested in seeing what happens when somebody plays a game a lot and improves their skills over time. I don't know that you're going to get that out of this series, but if you do, then, could be for you. And if not, this will definitely be a slightly better guide to how to beat the game than the first playthrough was. One of my great ambitions, if I ever get the time, is to do a series on how to beat Dark Souls without requiring any actual skill. And this playthrough should probably show you it's possible. And if anybody can pull off a stunt like that, it's me. This playthrough should show you at least how to beat Sinner Sacrifice for Redemption without any degree of skill. And if there's a cheap, cheesy way to do something, I'm going to do it. And I'm also going to get really lucky rolling through the lightning. I thought I had one more spear, but I did not, and took a full lightning bolt to the face for my trouble. I kind of like that, the throwing the pot under the arm. That is great. And I don't know why I expected it to work 3 times in a row. But I'm down to having nothing but healing items left, which is good, if I can bother to select them. And another thing I discovered from one of those videos, during that sequence where Undok is calling down the chandeliers, you can do damage, and the lightning that's surrounding her won't hurt you. But I've learned to be careful about the falling chandeliers, watch the light from the ceiling. Kind of wonder whether she can be hurt by the chandeliers. Probably not. But since there was friendly fire in challenge mode, it very well could be that she'll take some tiny amount of damage if a chandelier actually lands on her. Not enough to make me want to try to lure her into the path of one. But it's a matter of being patient, doing steady damage, playing defensively. Yeah, they keep just missing her. And I don't know whether that's because they're redirecting if she's in their path, or just she gets lucky. I'm watching now. I'm paying attention to where those chandeliers land. Was watching the chandelier, didn't watch her health bar. Okay, everybody rewind the video, see if she took any damage when that one landed on her. Alright, so now you all know whether she takes damage from the chandeliers or not. I just don't know how to be careful after having beaten the boss. But there we go. We're done here. 2 out of the 8 bosses down, and I've gotten no health upgrades. It's only going to get more difficult from here. Without the extra health, I'm just fighting with minimal resources that get smaller and smaller as they go. But, well, we'll deal with that when the time comes. See you next time.